in one age, called the Third Age by some,
An age yet to come.
an age long past.
A wind rose on the Geek at Arms podcast.
The wind was not the beginning,
There are neither beginnings,
nor endings to the turning of the Wheel of Time.
but it was a beginning.
Welcome to Woolheads, a Wheel of Time podcast by Geek at Arms. I'm Brian, and here's a man that I think surely must be Taviran. It's James.
The light illume you, Brian.
And you as well, James. You cannot go home again. Episode 2, A Question of Crimson, shows us how true that statement is. I myself have been away from my homeland for over 17 years now, and when I return, the differences remind me that nothing stands still. And that's without the addition of Trollocs and White Cloaks. But before we go any further, here's the obligatory spoiler warning. We talk a lot about the show, how the show and the books differ, and that often leads us to talk about things that may be coming up in future episodes this season or in seasons yet to come.
So consider yourself warned, friends.
Yes. So now that you've been away from Wichita for a while, do you identify even more with Perrin's experience of returning to Emmons Field?
I do, because when I return to Wichita, I have to find a place to stay, because the people who I used to live with, i.e. family, are no longer there. So does that mean I have to stay up in the basement of the Wine Spring Inn? No, I have to pay for a hotel, which I would have found hilarious if after Mistress Alvir, shunts them away from the streets, takes them to safety, and says, "You'll be safe up here." That'll be 5 silver.
Yeah, how do the Alvirs actually stay in business? Because you're running a hotel in a place that never gets visitors.
Because besides the inn, they also own the only restaurant.
Of course.
In about 100 miles anywhere. So, do people pay to stay at the inn? Not really, but they're absolutely going to pay for food.
Yeah, and Tam Alvir provides all of their booze for free, apparently.
Yeah, so...
Tam Althor.
Tam Althor.
Gosh.
Yeah, it gets mixed up easily.
Yeah. Well, these names are too similar. All right, so let's talk about the production. I was really, really mad about the waygates in season 1. It made no sense that they required the one power to operate. I missed the description from the books, and I was really salty about it.
But now it seems is that all you really need is your local neighborhood Ogier.
Yeah, maybe somebody in the production listens to Woolheads, because the waygate in this episode was so much better.
It was great. Yeah, watching it close, I feel like this. It's been a while since I rewatched season 1, but it stirred something in my mind. I feel like that what I just saw is a lot better than what it used to look like.
So much better. And they're still kind of hemmed in by the season 1 design, but we got the Avendosora leaf and we got the animated vines, and it looked really cool. So I'm not 100% on board, but at least they've mollified me.
Yeah. And what makes me happy is that I think that they're listening to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows that they're not just going to put out whatever, that they actually really do care what the fans think. If only they would do that with some of their other productions, which will go unnamed. Moving on.
Yes. So after episode 1 stayed mostly on sound stages, we're getting back to those vast, beautiful landscapes for this one. Between the spine of the world and the mountains of mist, we had just tons of great mountain views. And a little bit of the waste filmed in South Africa. It was just beautiful.
Do you happen to know where they did a majority of the when they weren't in South Africa? For the Mountains of Mist and more, do you know where they were shooting for those locations?
I think they were still in the Czech Republic.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's their main base, from what I understand.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It makes me want to visit.
Yeah, and they've got all of those great castles and manors and just the beautiful rough country in Eastern Europe to pull on. That it's honestly, it's some of the most beautiful television work I've ever seen. It's just amazing. I mean, after 30 years of everything being said in Vancouver. I meant to bring it up in the previous episode, but I've been really impressed with the cinematography so far. Mm-hmm. I should have looked up who the cinematographers are, but not only is the camera and the lighting just plain beautiful, but it's really supporting the story well.
It is.
There was one shot in particular in episode 1 that showed that changing relationship between Moraine and Rand, because he was shot at an angle that made him look really tall, as he is, and then she was sitting at this table that was just a little too tall for her. Mm-hmm.
And she was kind of stooping a little bit. And no, I didn't catch that at first, but you're right.
Yeah, and it really emphasized that the dynamic between them is changing. Mm-hmm. And we get a little bit more of that later on in the episode when they have their conversation in the waste.
That's the type of hints that I want to see, because once again, it's subtext. There's been a couple of times in the first episode and this one where they kind of make the subtext text, just outright bluntly saying, he's not going to listen to you anymore. I'm like, okay, yeah. You've said it once. And then when it got brought up a second time, I'm like, thank you. Can you stop hitting us over the head with it? We get it.
Yeah, well, screenwriters often fall into that trap where we have to make sure that they understand what we're saying. And I think we complained about that a lot about the Blade Runner sequel.
Yes, we did.
But a note on casting. I know I'm going to mispronounce her name, but Shore Agdashlu. I think that's close.
Who plays Aleda?
Yeah.
I was
inspired.
So happy when I saw her walk on the screen and I realized who she was. I heard that unique, wonderful voice that I fell in love with so much when I was watching The Expanse.
Yeah. And I never in a million years would have thought of her for Alida, but now that I have seen her play that part, it's like, there's nobody else it could possibly be.
Headcanon accepted.
Yes. Just amazing. Did we have anything more on production?
I liked the sparring scene between the two quote-unquote Andor boys.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because it's so very wushu theater.
It is. Well, here's the thing about sword fights. And I go more into sword fighting on screen in an upcoming Geek at Arms episode where we are going to be reviewing The Princess Bride. And that if you try to do actual sword fighting, actual sparring, it's going to be over very quickly. If you want it to look cool, then you got to add some tricks and bells and whistles. In fact, you have to approach stage combat much like wrestlers do on the WWE. Mm-hmm. You have to slow down the action. You have to create the drama because they're just like in the ring, they're telling a story in the ring, just like they're doing on the screen. You got to slow it down. You got to talk, witty repartee. You got to smile. You got to wink at the girls, and several other tricks.
And there's a whole lot of winking going on.
Flourishes and taunts, all these things. Which and you have to choreograph some of the moves along with the music. Mm-hmm. So, for being what it was, I liked it. I liked that it wasn't just Galad smacking down Gawain, like happens pretty much always in the book. Gawain, he held his own. I was happy to see that. And I'm gonna transition right to Copland talk.
Okay,
so go ahead.
I want to interrupt you because I want to start with the most egregious mistake in this episode.
Okay.
The one that might ruin the whole season for me unless they somehow walk it back. Moraine's hat.
Okay, Brian, we're pausing everything else. We need to dig into this. That of
I knew
all
that
things, Maraine's sun hat has hurt you egregiously.
I have a hard time taking her seriously at all. I mean, come on. No, really though. I know what you were going to say, and so go ahead. And I'm totally with you.
You pulled the rug out from underneath me. Well done.
Yeah.
I mean, we no. Let's unpack this, Brian, because obviously
No,
there's
stay on the hat. Well, I could talk about SG1 and how they had a whole thing about if you have a big hat in a scene, it makes every scene about the hat.
So it's Schrodinger. It's Chekhov's hat.
No, that's where you see the hat on an end table, and sometime before the end of the series, somebody is going to put on the hat.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's a different thing.
When it came on screen, I definitely noticed the hat.
This is more like the Planet of Hats.
Oh, the Planet of Hats
phenomenon from Star Trek.
But it really didn't bother me because being from Karian, she's very fair skinned, and she's they're approaching the waist. I mean, that sun, it'll strip the hide off you.
Yeah, that was all just in service of getting that really big laugh out of you.
Well done. So before Brian pulled a hat trick on me, let's talk about that duel and the fact that there was something vital missing from it. And I wrote...
that's not where I thought you were going to go.
In all capital letters, no Matt Gowan Gallad duel. You remember the scene I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're having they're having training with the warders. And I thought for a second we were going to get it. Matt comes down, he, trips over the sword rack and just picks one up and, obviously it has no idea what to do with it. I'm like, okay, that was funny. Well done. Now are you going to have him just suddenly just pick up a staff? Maybe. No, he's just going to shoot the breeze with Nynaeve. Okay, Nynaeve makes a funny joke. That's it.
Yeah, I was on my toes the whole scene waiting for it. And I was like, oh, well, they don't have the trainer here to set it up. So
so what happens in the books, friends, is that during this training scene, which I believe in the books included Gowan and Gallad, these two princes who are just, extensively trained. And they've come to Tar Valon to be trained as warders as well, to get that next level. Basically, they've gone through basic training. They've gone through, even more training, military training, and now they're at special forces training. This is where they become like Green Berets or Navy SEALs in Randland. And Matt, just hanging out watching, picks up a staff and says, "Oh, okay, I'll join you for a fight." And then proceeds to just absolutely take these two sword fighters apart. Just wallops them. Much to the surprise and shock of everyone there and the distress of many a wide-eyed novice. Oh no, poor Gowan. Oh, Gallad. And it's a great scene in the books because the leader of the warders, asks all these fighters, who was the greatest sword fighter in history?
Jerome Gadin.
He goes, exactly. He was only ever defeated once by a farmer with a staff.
Yeah, see, now I was certain that your breaking point was Morghese's prologue. Because no. I mean, I just talked about how changes to the characters' personalities bothered me. But this one is head and shoulders above any of my problems with anybody else.
That was my first point in my Copland talk. I didn't start with it because I had a nice segue until someone hung a hat on it. It started off fine. I'm like, okay, this is a great intro to Morghese. and how she assumed the Lion Throne. And then apparently someone changed the channel on me, Brian, because I'm not watching Wheel of Time anymore. Apparently, Game of Thrones
Yeah.
has appeared on my screen unbeknownst to me, because that's exactly what I was watching.
Mm-hmm. And Morgaze's problems in the book arise because she spared her rivals after the Succession War.
Exactly.
And all of her cruelty that was shown later in her life was a result of Gabriel's influence over her. And her murdering her opponents at the beginning of her reign just undercuts all of that.
Spoilers, friends. What's his name? Gabriel? Gabriel. Not the nice, kind of, sort of, stepdad consort that everyone believes him to be.
Yeah, and it's bad for the story, it's bad for her character, and it's bad for Elaine. It's bad. Shouldn't have happened.
No, it shows her to be a much more cruel and sadistic character.
Yeah.
Than she was in the books.
Morgaze was always practical, and she was capable of a certain hardness and ruthlessness, but
the murder of children right from the get-go is not her. It is not at the core of her being.
Yeah, it's just, I was, and for that to be the very first thing that happens in this episode.
And this is also our very first view of Morgaze, isn't it? The first time she's appeared on screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gosh.
And then there's the matter of her mantle, and so, that's got the same problem as the hat.
Once again, we're making clothes with the one power. I mean, let me tell you, the fashion scene in Paris would just be bonkers if they had the one power. But we go from there to a beautiful vista shot. And I want to ask, and I think we touched on this in the last episode, Egwene does not go to the wastes, does she?
Yeah, she does.
She does.
She goes from the Stone of Tyr to the waste.
That's right. See,
because she gets summoned by Amis the first time she appears there.
The
dreaming.
Omission of the Stone of Tyr has thrown my internal timeline of events completely off.
Yeah, it rearranged a lot of things.
Which I'm not saying it was a bad decision. I'm saying it was a decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my opinion, The Dragon Reborn, up until the very end of it, is the weakest of the books. I mean, Rand is barely in it. You can't have a whole season where your main character is not present.
I mean, you're right. There's just a couple of cool characters and events that I actually really liked in that book. Mostly, I'm hoping that they won't write him out or combine him with another character. I can't remember his name. The gentleman who was the thief catcher.
Julian Sandar.
Yes, I really liked him.
Yeah, me too. And I hope he shows up in Tanchico.
Me too. And I also love the idea that the Stone of Tyr, this incredible fortress, which has never been overthrown, has never been invaded, never been taken over, and all the Aiel have to do is just show up. Right. I mean, basically, they just they just appear from the shadows, and it's theirs. They've taken it over like that. I was really kind of hoping we would get this scene where the Stone of Tyr has never been conquered, nor shall it. Hello, what's all this then? And just Aiel just appearing out of nowhere. It's like, are you trying to take us over? We took you over 20 minutes ago. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So Tara's going to have to show up. I really, really hope they do this cool fortress justice. We'll see. And
they certainly built it up enough that I think we're going to get some really cool set piece battle over Kalendor. I have noticed they've cut quite a few of the Forsaken out. I don't know if because the Stone of Tyr had
one at the end of Dragon Reborn, doesn't he?
Balal,
yeah.
But we've only got six seals at the end of the last season, plus Lanfear and Ishamael. So 8 Forsaken rather than 13. And losing Bilal and Agenor and Balthamel, I'm not going to miss any of them.
Not a bit.
Masana, she was a non-entity through the books. So
I mean, I get what Jordan was doing with saying, like, okay, we've got this set number of Forsaken. It's 12, right?
13.
13. The most powerful men and women. But you've made
It's
yourself
too
all.
many
That's too
characters.
many characters. I mean, if you outnumber the Avengers, then you're really just giving yourself too much to write.
Yeah. Well, that was the trouble throughout the entire series, was just too many characters.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, we get into the High Lords of Tyr and just good night.
Let's not. But did we have any other Copland talk for this episode?
I have one more.
Go for it.
Well, I have two more. Rima and Basan, I thought it was weird that, oh, hey, there's Rima. Why isn't she sad over losing her warder? Mm-hmm. But I had to actually check to make sure it was the same character. Gotcha. But more important than that was I watched the credits, and the Aiel woman at the end is Bear, not Amis.
What?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they combined the two. I mean, they're doing a lot of that in this series.
Yeah. But it just reminded me of Last of the Mohicans, where they swapped the names of the girls for no reason whatsoever, and I was just terribly confused watching the movie.
So, actually, you've led into one more Copland talk I had, and I was going back and forth about what I wanted to mention this. For the most part, the few scenes that we have had with the Aiel, I have really enjoyed. I like Avienda. I like I just forgot the names of the other
Bane
two.
and Shiad.
Bane and Shiad. Thank you very much. I loved the scene in season 2 where we see Rand's mother. This pregnant Aiel is just absolutely handling these soldiers and killing them left and right. I'm like, that was fantastic. That was wonderful. The Aiel that we see at the end of this episode, this is supposed to be the scene where we're really introduced to Aiel, and we get the first glimpse of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
They look and act like if you ordered the Fremen from Temu. They don't so much as appear out of nowhere, like from behind rocks and twigs and saplings, like they do in the book, masters of deception and of hiding. They just kind of march onto screen from off screen. And
we couldn't see them because the camera wasn't looking at them.
Exactly. Where if, all Rand had to do was just turn his head slightly more to the left, like, oh, look, there's a bunch of Aiel. And one, like, the thing, like, let's run up to them and then point our weapons.
Right.
And then one runs up like 10 paces away and draws an arrow back. I'm like, oh, that looked horrible. That was...
Yeah, that was not the greatest moment in the show, for sure.
That was bad. And also, Bear, when we first see her in the dream sequence with Egwene, once again, this is not someone who looks like they're Aiel. It looks like someone standing around dressed as an Aiel.
Well, she actually kind of was. Because remember when Egwene first sees Amis in the waste, she's pretending to be a maiden of the spear again. When it's forbidden for her to carry weapons. So she kind of was playing dress up at that point. So she was
cosplaying, but still, it just felt like it just felt off.
Yeah, I follow you.
And like, I'm going to bring a Dune reference again. I mean, I talked about on our other podcast how much I love that movie. The second you saw the Fremen, you knew exactly what they were. They acted like they were a part of that world. There wasn't like, oh, this is a bunch of people portraying Fremen. No, these were Fremen. These Aiel at the end, part of it felt like they were cosplayers.
Yeah, they didn't live up to the Aiel that we've seen so far, for sure.
They did not. Now, I'm hoping that this was just a one-off. And that because I've been really looking forward to getting a look at them and how they're portrayed on screen with the culture, the characters. I'll forgive them this one if they can step it up and give us a proper look at Aiel society in the next.
Yeah, I think they were forcing the cliffhanger too much.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
So let's move on to some more positive aspects.
Yes.
In my first viewing, because I watch all of these twice as I'm preparing my notes, the first time I watched, I was really confused about Gabriel. I mean, I thought it was impossible for him to be who he was supposed to be if everybody already knew him.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watched it again, I realized what was actually happening. Because the first time he addresses anybody, there's this pause. And that's where he's rewriting their brain. It's like, oh, that was brilliant, actually.
Yep, he does that with Sune. He does that with Elaine. Like, wow. Yeah, it took me a second to realize it too. I'm like, okay. When he did it in the Amerlin's chamber, I was like, okay. Her, I forget.
Liani.
Her, was that
Liani?
Liani just was doing a slight, because this is just a consort, not really worth mentioning.
Oh yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah, like, okay, and then Siyun is like, being the diplomat. Of course we remember you. Mm-hmm. But then when it happened with Elaine, I was like, wait. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be honest, it wasn't until that moment that I also remembered who
he was.
Who he was.
Yeah, I didn't figure it out, and I had actually written down that was in my Copland talk at first, until I watched it the second time and I realized what was happening. It's like, oh right, compulsion.
It's subtle, so subtle. He almost did it to the viewers.
Yeah. I was really happy, very happy, when they mentioned that Abel Cawthon had stepped up to help the Ibaras.
Me too.
This is less of a change from the book, but it's a change from season 1.
Yeah.
Because we were all mad about Abel.
Furious. Is he because in the books, is he the best dad? Nah. But he's a dad. He's a dad.
He's like the second best dad.
He's the second best dad. Yeah. Tam is the best dad. Mm-hmm. Enough that even like in later books, when Matt is grown, he still calls him Da.
Maybe third best dad, because there's also Fail's father, Davram.
Dude was pretty cool. I did like that. I love how we're just continuing the joy that is Matt's character from episode to episode, and how utterly flippant he is with the horn. Is he going to use this to get drinks and girls? Absolutely he is, and that's what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that there's some payoff about my complaint about him in the previous season or previous episode.
Yeah.
That Swan just points out all of the things that I was just saying.
Her manipulation of him is textbook.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at Matt and I'm like, okay, I wonder if this is what Tony Stark might have been like, at this point in his young life. He's just starting out, some arrogance, a lot of confidence, beginning narcissism, and Sune just calls him all to the floor on all of it in the way that needed to be done. Mm-hmm. In the right way, that because like you of course you wouldn't use it to win favor with girls, and I know that you wouldn't pose for it. Do you want me to keep it safe for you?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
And again, Donald Finn as Matt, his performance is just perfect.
Mm-hmm. Please keep it up, good sir.
Yes. And again, the costuming, that dressing gown and the kind of Mongolian silk shirt, he is rocking that. I love it.
Rocking, yes. I love when there was finally a knock on his door and he thinks it's a girl. He stops, looks in the mirror, adjusts the robe, the pants, puffs out his chest, the little patch of chest hair he's got.
And Min's, oh God, put on a shirt.
Put on a shirt.
And did you wonder, like I did, about he grabs the shirt on his way out, and so he must have had to like take off the robe and put on the shirt and tuck it into his pants while they're walking to the Amaryllis chamber.
You know, it's funny. I'm seeing a lot of robes in these last couple of episodes. There was Matt's robe, which was fantastic in this episode. In the first episode of the season, we see Elaine walking around in what I can only describe as my bathrobe from college. That's what her.
It looked like it was trying to be a kimono. I had not quite getting there.
I had a bathrobe that was almost as exact same colors, which I inherited / stole from my old roommate John. I mean, I looked at that. I'm like, how did they get my bathrobe? Is this really what the heir of Andor should be wearing? You know what? At this point in her life, she's feeling her oats. She's slumming it. She's, just getting a little bohemian. Let her do her. So
yeah. She probably smelled like patchouli in that scene.
Well, she was gonna, make some apple, wine or some cider or whatever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
She was on her way to make some homemade booze. So. Yeah. But one other thing that I really thought was clever was we see throughout this episode and the last episode Egwene's nightmares, which she keeps experiencing about her time with the Seanchan. And now we find out that it's not just her, her trauma, her stress, which keeps bringing them up. It's Lanfear. And
she's so spiteful.
I know.
I mean, it's so petty.
And it's so perfect. This is not something that I think happens in the books, but it is so brilliant and in keeping with the character of Lanfear.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she is at the same time back with Rand in their little loft in Carhien, reminding him of the good times and doing a little subtle seduction, and at the same time is choking the life out of Egwene disguised as her keeper. It's like, oh,
characterization. It's perfect.
Yeah. Speaking of proper casting, Natasha O'Keefe as Selene / Lanfear. Keep it up. You're doing great.
Yes. There's a moment in this episode that, like in season 1, the mourning ceremony, Perrin in that apple orchard, and then Alana's description of Arafellan tradition. The books don't have anything about these cultural touch points. There's never anything about formal mourning in the novels. And I am here for them in this show. They're so moving and they're so rich and unique. I love it so much.
The writers spent a lot of time thinking on this, on pondering it, because it's a good point to bring up. We get some look at the culture outside the books, like with some of the festivals that we've seen in these towns and cities. I think we've seen like one wedding or hand fasting or whatever, but how we treat our dead is an equally important cultural touchstone. And the fact that they decide, like, we need to take the time to address this, how it would be done in this situation, was just as showed just as much as any important characterization for any specific character.
Yeah. And they did the same thing of the Beltane Festival, is really unspecific about what it's about. I assume it was originally a harvest festival in the books.
That's
but
how I
Jordan
read it
never
as well.
said so. But having it be a day of remembrance of the dead is equally moving and powerful. I just really love that they're taking a liberty there, but it's one that enhances the world. And it doesn't step on anything that Jordan wrote.
Yeah. It's respectful to the source material.
Mm-hmm. We ready to move on to our theory crafting?
Let's do it.
Well, we're clearly headed to Tanchico this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing we're going to have more Bail Doman, and it will be fun to finally see him and Matt together.
I do believe you do be correct.
Because I missed that from the first season, that we didn't get the scene of Rand and Matt on the spray.
Yeah. And of course, we're now properly in the Aiel Wastes.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be interesting is we're going to see at some point Moraine has to go through arches herself. The ones that are there in the waste.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of that in that trailer for at the end of the first episode.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, because like I said before, excluding an entire book, or maybe not excluding, but just moving further down the line, everything that happens in Tyr and most of the Dragon Reborn, it's kind of thrown me off. So, I mean, I don't know. We're going to see Rand trying to become the Kara Karn, which, okay, I just want to point this out. It's one thing to read the word Kara Karn. It's a whole nother thing to hear it out of the weird mouthed accent coming from the Aiel. It's like you read a word and then you hear it and you're like, no, that doesn't sound right. But it is right. And you're like, I don't know. It's anytime
not getting the apostrophes in the spoken word is a little disorienting.
Every time Avienda says it, it just throws me off. I'm like, okay, just you've said it 8 times now. We don't need to hear you say it anymore.
We've also got Gawain and Galad here finally, but they appear too late to meet Egwene. So I'm not sure where that plot thread is going to go, although I would be so happy to not have Lovesick Gawain, because by the end of the books, I hated him so much.
So fast.
It was old halfway through, and then by the time we got to A Memory of Light, I was just like, good, die, please. No more.
Yeah.
Every decision he made was just stupid. They weren't even like bad decisions. They were just stupid.
I think Jordan just kind of forgot about him. It's like, oh yeah, I should put Gawain in this for something. What was I doing with him? Check my notes. Lovesick for Egwene. We'll just keep that thread going.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if he had somebody in his life with a similar name, and this was just doing the Chaucer revenge thing, eviscerating him in fiction.
I was lovesick for a day. You will be lovesick for eternity.
Yeah, so I don't honestly know where that's going to go, but maybe it'll be better than what Jordan wrote.
We'll see. I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode.
Indeed. Until next time, peace favor your sword.